This shocking story begins in the town of Midwich, California, where we see a school filled with happiness and excitement. The reason? The school was preparing for its annual function. Parents were also invited, and everyone was enthusiastically getting ready for the big day. The school principal, Jill, went to her office and noticed that the clock showed exactly 10 a.m. But the moment the clock struck 10, something eerie happened. Jill and everyone else in the school suddenly fell unconscious. This wasn't just limited to the school, the entire town experienced the same phenomenon. Strangely, not only humans but also animals and birds had fallen into a deep, unexplained slumber. No one knew how or why this mysterious event occurred. Meanwhile, outside the town, Jill's husband was on his way to see her. However, as soon as he entered Midwich, he too lost consciousness. His car went out of control and crashed, resulting in his tragic death. Soon, police officers arrived at the scene and began their investigation. They were baffled. How could a careful driver suddenly crash like that? But they had no idea about the true cause of the incident. All they knew was that the entire town had inexplicably fallen asleep. Dr. Allen, a medical expert, arrived to examine the situation closely. The police decided to enter the town wearing protective masks to see what was happening. But as they ventured deeper into Midwich, even they lost consciousness. The rest of the team quickly pulled them back to safety. Dr. Allen was shocked. How was this happening? Just then, Dr. Susan, a government scientist, arrived. She explained to Allen that, for some unknown reason, everyone in the town had lost consciousness, and there was no way to predict when they would wake up. Then, at exactly 4 p.m., something equally strange occurred. All the unconscious people, including humans and animals, suddenly woke up as if nothing had happened. The residents were confused and scared. How had they all fallen asleep together, and how did they wake up at the same time? The mystery remained unsolved. Days passed, and life in Midwich slowly returned to normal. But then, another shocking discovery was made. Many women in the town were mysteriously pregnant. What was even more disturbing was that not just married and single women, but even young girls who had never been involved in such activities were expecting. What had happened in Midwich? No one had the answers. The strange events in town had left everyone deeply disturbed. Just then, Dr. Susan addressed the townspeople, announcing that the government had decided to offer a monthly payment of $3,000 to those who agreed to raise these mysterious children. In addition, the government would cover all child-rearing expenses, and the women who gave birth would receive a substantial financial reward. Hearing this, the women of the town readily agreed to go through with their pregnancies. One by one, all the deliveries took place, and the babies were born perfectly healthy, except for one. A young unmarried girl's child was stillborn. However, for some unknown reason, Dr. Susan secretly took the dead infant to her laboratory without informing anyone. At first, the children seemed normal, but soon it became evident that they were anything but ordinary. Their intelligence levels were astonishingly high. Unlike regular children, they behaved with the maturity of grown adults. Skills that normal kids took 10 years to learn, these children mastered in a fraction of the time. It seemed as though the government had known about this all along. That's why they had made such an enticing offer to the town's women. Dr. Susan was also aware of the truth, but she chose to remain silent. As time passed, an unsettling incident occurred. One of the 10 children, a young girl, was persistently calling out to her mother. However, the woman was busy cooking and failed to respond. This angered the girl immensely. Using the power of her mind, she hypnotized her mother, taking control of her actions. The girl then commanded her mother to place her hand into the boiling food. Completely under her daughter's control, the woman obeyed, plunging her hand into the scalding meal, suffering severe burns. She was immediately rushed to the hospital. While the woman was being treated, Dr. Susan visited her to question her about the incident. However, despite wanting to reveal the truth about her daughter, the woman remained silent. She knew that if the government discovered the true nature of these children, they would take them away forever. And that was something she could never allow. Despite knowing the terrifying truth, the woman remained silent. However, the weight of the secret pushed her into severe depression. She was unable to cope with the stress, and one day, she ended her life by jumping off a cliff. As a result, the truth about these strange children remained hidden from the public. 7 years passed. The children had grown older, but their intelligence was far beyond that of normal humans. Mysterious and unexplainable incidents occurred in the homes where they lived, leaving people confused and scared. Dr. Susan continued to monitor the children closely, training them and ensuring their development. It was clear that she knew where these children had come from and what their real purpose was. As they matured, each of the children paired up with another, except for one boy. His intended partner had died before birth, leaving him the only one without a counterpart. One day, one of the girls from the group visited an eye doctor for treatment. The doctor applied eye drops to clear her vision, but by mistake, some of the liquid irritated her eyes. This enraged the girl. Her eyes turned blood red, and she used her psychic powers to take control of the doctor's mind, forcing her to kill herself with her own hands. Incidents like these started increasing in town. More and more people were found dead, some committing suicide, while others died in mysterious and unexplained ways. And somehow, all these events were connected to these children. Jill, the school principal, became aware of these disturbing occurrences and grew increasingly afraid of the children. Concerned about their growing influence, she approached Dr. Allen, pleading with him to help provide them with a proper education, hoping to steer them toward good. However, Dr. Allen was hesitant. He wasn't ready to accept this responsibility yet. The behavior of these children was far too unsettling for him to trust them completely. Because of their fear, no one in town, especially Dr. Allen, dared to interact with the children. The townspeople believed that all the strange occurrences were caused by these unnatural kids, as if they were cursed. Dr. Allen decided to distance himself from them and left. Meanwhile, the story shifted to Jill's son, who was none other than one of these mysterious children. He was the boy whose partner had died before birth. This left him feeling deeply alone, unlike the others who had paired up. Jill had lovingly named her son Ben, but Ben remained fixated on the partner he had lost years ago. Despite his mother's efforts to comfort him, he felt an emptiness that nothing could fill. At times, he even tried to form a stronger bond with Jill, but it was something that could never truly happen. One day, Ben found himself in a graveyard, standing before the burial site of his lost partner. Coincidentally, the girl's mother, an unmarried woman who had never recovered from the loss of her child, was also there. She visited the grave every day, grieving for the daughter she never got to raise. Ben observed her sorrow but remained detached. To him, emotions were temporary, something that would eventually fade away. He began to pray at his partner's grave, consumed by thoughts of what could have been. At that moment, Dr. Allen arrived. Seeing Ben in such a pitiful state filled him with unexpected anger and sympathy. He realized that these children, despite their terrifying abilities, were ultimately alone in this world, with no real guidance or connection. This moved Dr. Allen to finally reconsider Jill's request. He decided to step up, mentor the children, and guide them toward a better path in life. He also resolved to support Ben, who was completely isolated. The very next day, Dr. Allen began teaching the children. Their intelligence level was shockingly high, far beyond even his own. However, instead of focusing on technical knowledge, he emphasized logical thinking, hoping to shape them into individuals who could contribute positively to society rather than harm it. One day, while Dr. Allen was conducting a lesson, he had to step out for a short while. During his absence, the school's janitor entered the classroom. Unlike Dr. Allen, he despised these children. His hatred toward them was evident, and his mere presence felt ominous. The entire town, including the janitor, believed that these children were responsible for all the mysterious and tragic events. People were so terrified of them that many had resorted to suicide. Fueled by his hatred, the janitor stormed into the classroom, waving his broom threateningly at the children in an unsettling manner. The children quietly observed his every move, their expressions unreadable. Suddenly, the janitor struck one of the boys on the head with his broom. This act of violence made the children perceive him as a threat. Without hesitation, they activated their hypnotic powers, causing their eyes to glow an eerie green. Working together, they took full control of the janitor's mind. Strangely, unlike the other children, Ben's eyes did not change color. He alone did not possess the same hypnotic abilities as the rest. However, this fact remained unknown to everyone for the time being. Under their control, the janitor was forced to walk up to the rooftop of the school. With no will of his own, he stood at the edge, and then, without hesitation, jumped to his death. When Dr. Allen and Jill learned about this horrifying incident, they were completely shocked. It was now clear, these children, when feeling threatened, could kill without remorse. Dr. Allen was deeply disturbed and needed answers. Where did these children get such powers? How were they capable of controlling minds? Determined to uncover the truth, he sought out Dr. Susan for more information. When he explained everything to her, Dr. Susan revealed something even more terrifying. This phenomenon was not limited to their town. Similar events had been occurring across the world. In multiple countries, people had mysteriously fallen unconscious, only to awaken and find that several women had inexplicably become pregnant. These women later gave birth to children who, just like the ones in their town, exhibited supernatural abilities. Dr. Susan suspected something even more alarming: these children might not be human at all. Instead, they could be part of an alien species inhabiting human bodies. And if that were true, then the danger was far greater than anyone had imagined. Since these children were not born through natural means, it was certain that the aliens had used humans as hosts to give birth to their offspring. This also raised the possibility that they intended to take over Earth in this manner. If this plan continued, their population would gradually increase, eventually leading to the extinction of humans. Dr. Allen found it hard to believe Suzanne's words. To prove her point, Suzanne took Allen to her laboratory, where she showed him a body structure that was not human, it was an alien. It was actually the dead body of the same child who had died years ago. However, without informing anyone, Suzanne had taken the body to her lab for research. She had been studying it for years and had discovered many hidden secrets. Dr. Allen was furious after learning that Suzanne had hidden such a major truth from everyone. He was especially upset because that child had a mother and a sister who visited her grave every day to pray for her. If they found out that the girl's body wasn't actually there, it would devastate them. Suzanne then explained her plan to Allen. She had been working to uncover the truth about these alien children. She knew that they were not human, but she also knew that people would not believe her without solid proof. That's why she had started collecting evidence of their alien origins. As soon as she gathered enough proof, she planned to expose the truth to everyone. Even after hearing Suzanne's plan, Allen was not fully convinced. Angry and frustrated, he turned to leave. Just then, Suzanne hurried after him and warned him of something crucial. Under no circumstances should he allow these children to read his mind. These alien children weren't just capable of hypnosis, they could also read human thoughts. And if they accidentally read Allen's mind, the children would find out about Suzanne and her experiments, that she was trying to expose them. If that happened, they might even come after Suzanne's life. Despite the warning, Allen was still furious and stormed out of the lab. He then went to meet one of the children, a girl who, for some reason, was packing her belongings. When he asked her why, she simply replied, "No one can stop us now. We are all going to live together, away from other humans, in a farmhouse where no one can disturb us." This made Allen even more suspicious. Were these children planning an attack on humans? He tried his best to convince them otherwise, but they were unwilling to listen. Even Ben's mother pleaded with him, reminding him that he was different from the other children and didn't need to go with them. But Ben rudely dismissed his mother and left to join the alien children. Unlike humans, these alien children communicated without speaking, simply by reading each other's minds. This showed that they were developing rapidly over time. The next day, the father of one of the girls arrived, determined to take his daughter away. Despite how strange everything was, he still considered her his daughter and always would. However, the girl refused to leave. Frustrated, the man tried to force her, but before he could succeed, all the children gathered around him. They used their psychic energy to take complete control of his mind. Under their influence, the man became completely out of control. He got into his car and, unable to think for himself, drove straight into an accident, taking his own life. When the government and military officials learned about these strange incidents, they made a serious decision. They ordered the deployment of the entire army. Dr. Suzanne rushed to Allen and informed him that the government had decided to eliminate all the children in town. The military had come to the conclusion that these children were responsible for all the murders and suicides happening around. If they weren't stopped, they would continue to wreak havoc. Military forces were expected to arrive in town soon to execute their plan. Upon hearing this, Dr. Allen immediately went to the children and tried to reason with them. "You are heading down the wrong path," he pleaded. "Do as I have taught you, use your intelligence for good." But after a while, Allen realized that these children were not going to change. He remembered what Suzanne had told him, that they could read minds. So, to keep them from discovering the military's plan, Allen focused his thoughts on something else, himself surfing on ocean waves. When the children attempted to read his mind, all they saw were images of water and waves. They had no idea that the military was about to arrive. Meanwhile, a local priest, who had just discovered the children's true nature, grabbed a gun and stormed towards them, determined to kill them. But unfortunately, some of the children saw him coming and immediately used their psychic energy to take control of his mind. Under their influence, the priest turned the gun on himself and pulled the trigger. When the town heard about this, chaos erupted. Enraged, the townspeople grabbed torches and weapons, ready to hunt down and kill the children. They believed these children were a curse, responsible for all the bizarre and horrifying events happening since their birth. However, what they didn't realize was that harming these alien children was nearly impossible. If the children wanted, they could take control of the entire town and turn its people against each other, forcing them to commit horrific acts. Meanwhile, Suzanne was shown leaving with a stack of research papers, heading somewhere with a determined look on her face. But just then, some of the children appeared in front of Suzanne, attempting to read her mind. Among them was Jill's son, Ben. Suzanne had anticipated this situation, so she deliberately filled her thoughts with unrelated images to prevent them from accessing her real plans. However, it seemed that she was already too late. The children captured Suzanne and dragged her back to her laboratory. As they entered, they saw the body of the alien girl whom Suzanne had secretly kept there after her death, conducting experiments on her all this time. Ben, seeing his kind in such a state, was filled with uncontrollable rage. Without hesitation, the children took full control of Suzanne's mind. They forced her to lie down and, using her own hands, made her slit her own throat. She died on the spot, punished for her actions against them. Meanwhile, Dr. Allen had uncovered the full truth about these alien children. He realized that they posed a severe threat to humanity. There was only one solution: eliminate them as soon as possible. Determined, he returned to his workshop and began gathering explosives and bombs, preparing for one final act to destroy the children once and for all. With the explosives in hand, Dr. Allen set out for the children's hideout. However, by the time he arrived, it was already too late. The police and military forces had reached the location, surrounding the children with their guns drawn. But the alien children, unfazed, used their hypnosis abilities on the officers. Within seconds, chaos broke out. Police officers and soldiers turned on each other, attacking their own comrades as if they had lost all sense of reason. The scene transformed into a horrific battlefield. Bullets flew in every direction, and the ground was soaked in blood. The conflict escalated beyond control, leading to the tragic deaths of countless officers. The town was now caught in the grip of an unprecedented nightmare. The alien children watched the chaos unfold with delight. The army and police officers, despite their weapons, were powerless against them. Meanwhile, Dr. Allen had reached Jill and told her everything, his plan to destroy the alien children. Jill, terrified, begged him to spare Ben. She insisted that Ben was different from the others, that he was kind and compassionate. But Allen was too determined to listen. Without hesitation, he locked Jill inside a room to prevent her from interfering and set out toward the children. A short while later, the children were gathered in their usual classroom, where Dr. Allen had always been their teacher. He entered, carrying a briefcase filled with explosives and bombs, but he remained calm and composed so as not to raise suspicion. He even controlled his own thoughts, focusing on random, meaningless images to prevent the children from reading his mind. However, one of the girls grew suspicious of Allen's behavior. She signaled to the others, and soon, all the children combined their psychic energy to probe his mind. Just then, Jill arrived. She couldn't let her son, Ben, die in this plan. She called out to him, urging him to come to her. But the other children quickly read her mind and tried to take control of her body. Ben, seeing his mother in distress, couldn't bear it. He refused to let them hurt her. Acting on impulse, he attacked and killed the girl who was controlling Jill. Dr. Allen seized the moment. He shouted to Jill, telling her to take Ben and escape immediately. Jill grabbed Ben's hand and ran, finding a place to hide. Now, the alien children focused all their psychic energy on Allen, determined to break through his mental defenses. He tried to resist, focusing on a solid brick wall in his thoughts to block them out. But the children were too powerful. Overwhelming his mind, they finally saw the truth. Inside the briefcase was a ticking time bomb. Before the dangerous alien children could take any action, the time bomb exploded. A massive blast shook the entire area, consuming everything in its wake. Tragically, along with all the alien children, Dr. Allen was also killed in the explosion. Jill and Ben, however, were completely safe. Witnessing everything that had happened, Jill made a firm decision. She would leave this town with Ben and move to another city. She would raise him as a normal child, ensuring he grew up to be a good person. With that, Jill and Ben set off on a new journey, leaving their past behind. And with this, our story comes to an end.